Chapter 11. A Brutal Past. Leo was just 10. He sat on the edge of the sofa, small legs dangling, his hands locked tightly in his lap. Beside him, his Aunt Nora placed a protective arm around his shoulder. To his left sat Austin, 2 years younger, his cousin, silent and fidgeting with his fingers. Across the room, Lucas paced restlessly, his phone pressed to his ear. His wife Grace sat stiffly at the dining table, her eyes darting toward Leo every now and then. Lucas cursed under his breath. Still no answer. Where the hell is he? Nora's voice trembled. It's been 18 hours, Lucas. Maybe something happened. Leo's lips quivered, but no tears came. He sat silent, hollow. By evening, the police were called. By the end of the week, the report turned cold. No trace of Leo's father. Nora had a flight coming up. She considered taking Leo with her, but Lucas stepped forward, placing a heavy hand on Leo's shoulder. He is my brother's son, Lucas declared. That makes him my son. I'll take responsibility. Don't worry, Nora. But something else was on Lucas and Grace's minds. They had no home of their own and were barely surviving in a rented place. Nora, weary and broken, agreed. Leo was too young to know any better, but in his heart he knew one thing. His father had despised Lucas and Grace. At first, life under Lucas seemed bearable, but months later the mask slipped. You're old enough to wash your own clothes, Leo, Grace snapped one morning. You forgot the groceries again? Lucas barked. Don't just sit, cook something if you're hungry. By 12, Leo was cooking meals, hauling groceries, doing his own laundry and scrubbing the house. His small shoulders carried the weight of a life meant for adults. At first he obeyed without complaint, but time sharpened him. At 14, Leo's eyes grew harder, his voice stronger. Don't talk to me like that, he shot back one night after Lucas scolded him. Grace sneered. Watch your tone, boy. But he didn't back down anymore. Austin never turned against him. Though he was chained by his parents' will, he still respected Leo. At 15, the real storm came. Grace, her voice casual, dropped the news during dinner. My sister and her husband will be staying with us for 30 days. Leo froze, then his fork hit the plate with a clang. 30 days? That's not a visit, that's moving in. Grace's eyes narrowed. Don't you raise your voice at me, they're family. They're your family, Leo shot back, leaning forward. Not mine. And I won't allow strangers in this house for a month. Lucas looked up from his plate, a sly grin on his lips. Strangers, you watch your mouth, boy. They'll take over the house, Leo pressed. This is my home. If you've got a problem with it, just leave. The table went silent. Grace's face turned white. Lucas's eyes darkened. Later that night, Lucas poured whiskey into his glass, his bandaged knuckles tapping the table as he spoke to his lawyer friend, Stephen. The lawyer smirked coldly. Leave it to me. Consider it done. 2 weeks later, Lucas walked in with an evil grin plastered across his face. Grace, invite your sister. Let them live here as long as they want. Leo, sitting on the sofa, shot up instantly. No, I told you before, I won't allow it. Lucas leaned forward, smirking. Who asked your permission, brat? Leo's jaw tightened. I don't like repeating myself. This is my house. Lucas chuckled. Your house, are you sure? He snapped his fingers. Stephen! The lawyer stepped in from behind the wall, holding a stack of files. His presence filled the room with a suffocating arrogance. Tell this boy who owns the house, Lucas ordered. Stephen cleared his throat. Legally, this property belongs to Lucas. Leo blinked, shocked. What? This is a joke. Stephen pulled out another document. Your father transferred ownership to Lucas before he disappeared. Everything belongs to him. Liar, Leo roared. He hated Lucas. He would never do that. Stephen sighed with mock sympathy. And yet, here it is. Now, would you kindly leave their house? Leo's chest heaved. I'm not leaving. This is my house. Lucas pulled out his phone. Then I'll call the cops. Leo shouted. Don't, it's a family business. Lucas leaned close, venom dripping from his voice. It was a family business, now it's personal. He dialed. At the station. Lucas and Stephen, both with fresh bandages, sat before the police chief. The officer's eyes widened. A 15-year-old did this to both of you? He is the senior police officer, head of the station, who shared a close relationship with Lucas, who had done him many favors in the past. Stephen touched his broken nose. That boy is not normal. Lucas growled. He's dangerous. He nearly killed us. The officer leaned back. The court will send him to juvenile detention. No, Lucas cut him off sharply. The officer frowned. No, why not? Lucas leaned closer, his teeth gritted. Keep him here, I want him broken. The officer hesitated. Broken? Lucas's voice dripped poison. Beat him, break every rib, make his cries reach hell. The officer stared at him, then, remembering Lucas's connections and favors, smirked. Consider it done. Leo sat in the cell, gripping the bars, his face bruised, eyes still burning with defiance. Officer, it's not my fault. They're trying to steal my house. The chief leaned in, his voice calm yet cruel. Did I ask? He glanced at his watch. You'll be released in, 2 hours, but first a special treatment. He walked away. 2 junior officers entered, sleeves rolled up, sticks and belts in hand. Their eyes looked hungry for violence. They dragged Leo up by his hair. He struggled. One slapped him across the face, another threw him against the wall. Crack! A stick slammed across his back. Whip! A belt tore into his skin. Leo screamed, tears streaming down his cheeks. Stop, please! The blows rained down mercilessly. His ribs cracked, his back burned, his voice grew hoarse. His cries echoed like an animal being slaughtered. An hour later, he lay broken, barely breathing. With half-open eyes, he whispered, Water. Please. One officer sneered, No. But Leo begged again and again. The man snapped. He stormed in, yanked off his heavy boot, and smashed it into Leo's head. Once, twice, again. Leo's screams turned into silence. The officer froze, his chest heaving. For a moment, he thought Leo was dead. The chief rushed in. What did you do? Nothing, the officer lied quickly. He collapsed. They rushed Leo to the hospital. 2 months later, when Leo finally opened his eyes, the world was blank. He didn't remember the police station. He didn't remember the house. He didn't remember the beating. He had forgotten everything. For good. Or maybe for their good. Chapter 12. A clever move. The morning air was cool and heavy with silence, broken only by the pounding rhythm of 2 sets of footsteps cutting across the empty park. Leo and Zeke ran side by side, their breath clouding faintly in the air. For Leo, the run was effortless, his stride steady, his breathing controlled, his body moving like a well-oiled machine. For Zeke, every step felt like war. His lungs burned, his legs begged for mercy, yet he forced himself to keep going. When they shifted to push-ups, sit-ups, and pull-ups, the gap became even clearer. Leo moved with precision, as if repetition itself was second nature. Zeke, on the other hand, groaned, trembled, and occasionally cursed under his breath. Finally, Zeke collapsed flat on the ground, chest heaving. You're not even human, Leo. How do you not get tired? Leo smirked, wiping a thin line of sweat from his brow. Discipline, you'll get there if you stop whining. Whining? This is survival, Zeke muttered, rolling over to catch his breath. Leo chuckled, then extended a hand to pull him up. But as soon as Zeke stood, Leo's expression changed, his eyes hard, his tone low. Head home. I've got something to take care of. I'll join you later. Zeke narrowed his eyes. Something to take care of sounds shady. Leo's lips curled into a half smile. Relax, not everything's shady, just trust me. Zeke hesitated, then sighed. Fine, but don't take too long. He walked off, still shaking his head. Leo, however, turned the opposite way. Each step seemed heavier than the last, as though he were walking back into a past he couldn't escape. Minutes later, Leo stopped behind a thick old tree, its roots clawing deep into the ground. Across the road, standing tall and unchanged, was a house. His house. Once a place of warmth, laughter, and family, now stolen, occupied by his uncle. His throat tightened, chest aching as memories surged through him like fire. His fists curled so tight his nails dug into his skin. Fate has been cruel to me, he whispered to himself, the words echoing like a curse in his mind. The front door creaked open. A boy in a crisp school uniform stepped out, backpack strapped across his shoulders. Austin, his cousin. His eyes carried innocence, untouched by betrayal or scars. The sight shattered Leo's composure. He was dragged back to the memory of shoving Austin to the ground, anger clouding his vision, regret searing into his chest even now. He didn't deserve that, Leo thought bitterly. None of this was his fault. Austin adjusted his collar and started down the street, but his gaze suddenly flickered. He had seen something, a figure by the tree. Leo cursed under his breath. He hadn't hidden well enough. Austin's brow furrowed, but instead of fear, he looked curious, even amused. He thought it was just a classmate, maybe someone playing a prank. He stepped closer. Panic twisted inside Leo. He crouched lower, trying to slip away unseen. But before he could disappear into the shadows, a voice cut through the morning air, calm, casual, and innocent.
Hello?
Leo froze, every nerve in his body on edge. He turned around with an awkward smile. "Leo, is that you?" Austin stood there, eyes wide, stunned. For a moment, neither moved. The past 2 years pressed heavily between them. Leo clenched his jaw. There was no running now. Wordlessly, he motioned for Austin to follow and walked away from the street. He didn't want Austin's parents, or anyone else, watching. They ended up in a quiet park. A lonely bench sat beneath a weak streetlight. Leo dropped onto it, leaning back as if the weight of the world sat on his shoulders. Austin sat beside him, still staring. "It's been a while," Austin finally said. His voice carried both relief and uncertainty. "You've changed a lot." Leo smirked faintly, but there was no humor in his eyes. Guess life does that to people. For a moment, silence returned. Then Austin added softer, "It's good to see you again." Leo swallowed hard. His pride didn't like it, but his conscience wouldn't let him stay quiet. "Austin," he hesitated, his voice rough. "I'm sorry. For what happened 2 years ago. I should have." Austin cut him off, shaking his head firmly. "Don't, that wasn't your fault, my dad. He's always been like this." Leo's brows were knitted. "What do you mean by that?" Austin leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I think he's involved with the mafia." Leo's eyes closed as a bitter laugh escaped him. "Really? Him? Mafia?" He shook his head, though the laughter didn't reach his eyes. Austin exhaled shakily. "After you were released from the hospital, I saw him. He met some guy at our house. Black suit, 2 bodyguards. I wasn't allowed near them, but they were talking about you." Leo stopped laughing, his stomach churned, fury rising. "That explains how your dad had the power to beat me nearly to death." Austin's expression darkened. "That's not all. Last month I found a book in his room, a list of names crossed out, and then those same names appeared on the news. Missing people." Leo leaned forward, eyes burning. His voice dropped to a warning tone. "So he really is with the mafia." He placed a hand on Austin's shoulder, his grip firm. "Listen to me, Austin. Don't follow in your dad's footsteps. If you do, money won't matter. Your life will. You are a good guy." Austin's throat tightened. He wanted to believe he wasn't like his father. He wanted to believe he still had a choice. He nodded. The two stood. No words could cover everything, so they hugged briefly before walking away, back into separate worlds. When Leo returned home, the smell of fried chicken greeted him. In the living room, Aunt Nora and Zeke sat at the table, laughing, greasy fingers pulling apart crispy wings. Leo raised a brow. "At this hour, seriously?" "Join us," Aunt Nora said with a grin. "Not a chance I'm eating that for breakfast." His voice was sharp and he turned toward the kitchen. Then louder, "Zeke, come here, I need a word." Zeke trudged in, still chewing. "What's the problem now?" Leo's eyes blazed. "What the fuck are you doing? You got a fight in a week and you're stuffing yourself with junk food?" Zeke frowned. "Relax. The food was already here when I got home. What was I supposed to do, starve?" "Yes," Leo snapped, stepping closer. "Better to starve than eat poison before your fight. You think fried chicken's gonna make you stronger? You need real fuel, eggs, bread, milk, fruit, not this shit." Zeke sighed, frustration flashing across his face, but Leo's intensity broke him down. He nodded reluctantly. Minutes later, the two emerged from the kitchen with plates of fried eggs, bread, bananas, and glasses of milk. Aunt Nora blinked. "Why the sudden change of diet?" Leo gave her a look sharp enough to cut. "Because he needs to stay sharp, and you should also eat healthier too." Nora just chuckled, waving her hand dismissively. "Can't help it, I love the food in this city." Leo muttered under his breath. Unbelievable. But deep down, he knew one thing. If he couldn't control what Zeke ate, he sure as hell couldn't control what awaited them in the days ahead. Days blurred together as the fight drew closer. Every sunrise brought the same ritual: running until their lungs burned, push-ups and pull-ups until their arms screamed, sparring until sweat soaked the ground. Zeke was far from becoming a true fighter, but under Leo's watch he had sharpened fast. His jabs had accuracy now, his kicks carried weight. "You're already better than 99% of the guys out there," Leo told him one evening. "But that last 1%, that's where the monsters live." And now the day has come. The underground fight club was packed, a haze of cigarette smoke and shouting men filling the air. The crowd pressed tight against the ring, hungry for blood. The commentator's booming voice echoed over the speakers, riling them up. Zeke stood beside Leo barefoot, shorts clinging to his skin, chest bare and trembling. Every second that ticked by felt like a march toward hell. His hands shook, his throat dry, and he could hardly hear over the thunder of the crowd. Leo glanced at him, reading every flicker of fear in his posture. He leaned closer. "Don't worry. It'll be over soon." His voice was calm, steady, but it did little to calm Zeke's pounding heart. There was no turning back. The commentator called the names. Both new fighters making their debut tonight. Zeke's shoulders eased slightly. At least it wasn't some legend, some seasoned monster like the Titan. Leo had known this all along. He wouldn't throw Zeke to the wolves. Not yet. The other fighter stepped into the light. Gale, age 19, height 5'10", weight 160 pounds. A sharp-eyed, clever-looking guy. Zeke, 6 feet 165 pounds, taller, longer reach, but trembling like a rookie. Leo cupped his hands and shouted from ringside, "Oi, Zeke, you can do this. Remember your training." A man beside him in the crowd turned. "Is he your friend?" Leo gave a curt nod. "Yeah, why?" The man grinned wide, then shouted over the noise, "Aye, everyone, he's the friend of the champion, all money on him." The crowd erupted. Zeke felt it slam into him like a weight on his chest. Now it wasn't just him. Now the whole crowd was counting on him. "I can't fail them. I can't fail Leo." The bell rang. Both fighters squared up, circling the ring. Gale moved first, snapping a punch forward. Zeke dodged cleanly, easier than he expected. The crowd roared. His body moved on instinct. A swift kick into Gale's gut. The blow landed hard, forcing Gale backward. Now, Zeke lunged forward, unleashing a right hook across his opponent's jaw. Crack. Gale collapsed to the mat. The crowd went wild. Zeke froze, eyes wide. "That's it? Already?" He turned, throwing his arms up, celebrating the sudden victory. Cheers shook the walls. But then, something shifted. The crowd's roar dimmed into a strange, sharp tension. Leo's voice cut through the noise, urgent. "Zeke, watch your back!" Too late. A vicious kick slammed into Zeke's neck from behind. He crumpled to the mat, gasping in pain. He twisted around, eyes burning. Gale was standing again, smiling. Gasps spread through the crowd, the fake knockout, the bait. Leo's jaw tightened, shocked but impressed. Under his breath he muttered, "That was clever." Chapter 13. Your name in blood. Zeke was on the ground, gasping for air, while Gale stood tall above him. "Get up," Gale said calmly. Zeke staggered to his feet. That last kick had weakened him, but he still raised his fists, forcing himself into a fighting stance. He threw a punch, but Gale slipped it with ease and delivered a brutal uppercut. Zeke stumbled backward, blood spilling from his mouth. Gale wasn't fighting to win. He was toying with him. Every strike he threw landed only when Zeke dared to attack first. And through it all, that mocking smile never left his face. Each time Zeke advanced, Gale punished him with precise punches and devastating kicks. The crowd roared, their cheers blending into chaos. Leo's chest tightened with anxiety, his fists clenching as he watched his friend take blow after blow. But Zeke refused to give up. He stepped in once more, but Gale landed a desperate punch to his nose. A sharp crack echoed through the ring. "Mom!" Zeke cried out as he fell down, the words spilling from deep inside him. No one heard it but Gale. Gale's smile twisted into laughter. "So you're a mama's boy?" he taunted. "Where's your mother, little boy?" Zeke's nose bled as he dropped to his knees, his jaw tightening with fury. Gale leaned close, his face inches from Zeke's. His voice turned venomous. "Hey, let's make a deal. I'll go soft on you if your mother goes hard on me." The words sliced through Zeke like a blade. He adored his mother more than anything, Rage surged. He threw a punch, but Gale was faster. His fist smashed into Zeke's face, knocking him unconscious. The crowd erupted in cheers. Many had bet on Zeke, but the spectacle mattered more to them than the outcome. They were rubberneckers, craving blood and drama. Leo's stomach burned with fury. Gale turned his back, throwing his arms up in celebration. But then, something unexpected happened. Rear naked lock. Zeke had slipped behind Gale and locked his arms around his neck. Gale's eyes widened. "What?" Zeke whispered in his ear, voice trembling with rage. "Tell me, how does it feel to have a taste of your own medicine?" The crowd's energy flipped in an instant. Their cheers thundered for Zeke now. Leo's heart raced with hope. But Zeke wasn't letting go. He dragged Gale to the ground, tightening the lock with every ounce of fury left in him. Gale thrashed violently, his face turning purple, seconds away from death. "Zeke, let him go!" Leo screamed from outside the ring. "You'll kill him!" But Zeke's mind was consumed by Gale's words, his vile insult about his mother echoing over and over. His grip only grew tighter. The crowd's cheers died into silence. Everyone watched in horror. Gale's body weakened, his movements slowing. He was fading. Leo made his choice. He jumped into the ring and with one swift kick to the side of Zeke's neck knocked him unconscious. Both fighters lay sprawled on the floor, unmoving. 2 days later, Zeke's eyes fluttered open to a white ceiling. He blinked, disoriented, before realizing he was in a hospital bed. Nora sat at his side, relief flooding her face. Leo sat close by, exhaustion written all over him.
"He's awake," Nora whispered.
Leo leaned forward. "How are you feeling?" Zeke frowned, his head throbbed. "What happened? Where am I?" "You're in the hospital," Nora said gently. "Leo brought you here 2 days ago when a car hit you." "Car?" Zeke muttered, staring at Leo. He could tell his friend had made up the story, but he didn't push it. Instead, he forced a weak smile. "Oh yeah, that car. Stupid driver." They laughed softly, trying to ease the tension. Outside, in a parked car across the street, Officer Troy sat with a phone pressed to his ear. "Yes, sir," he said. "He's all right. I checked on him." Troy had been there that night. He had watched the entire fight unfold, but he never intervened. He had his orders, not from the police, but from Zeke's father. It was Zeke's father who had arranged for Gale to fight his son. One of his men had informed him about Leo's plan to enter Zeke into the underground club, and the father also had been eager to see his son tested. Troy's voice lowered with respect. "He fought well, sir. Your boy. He's tougher than I thought." There was a pause. Then Zeke's father spoke his final command before ending the call. "Keep an eye on them. Tell me about their every move." Chapter 14. Zeke the Grappler. The air was thick with smoke and silence. Gale knelt on the cold cement floor, sweat rolling down his face as 4 guards stood in rigid formation around him, silent, watchful, immovable. In front of him, a leather chair groaned as Zeke's father leaned back, a glowing cigar balanced between his fingers. The orange ember flared every time he drew a breath, casting shadows across his sharp, unreadable face. Beside him, Officer Troy stood tall, hands behind his back, eyes locked on Gale like a predator studying its prey. "Sir, why are you doing this?" Gale's voice cracked as he spoke, his knees pressing harder into the ground. I did as you said." Zeke's father exhaled a slow cloud of smoke. His eyes never left Gale. "Yeah, you sure did a good job," he said, voice smooth, deliberate. He let the pause stretch, almost savoring it. "But," Gale's breath hitched. His ears strained, desperate to catch every word. When Zeke yelled, "Mom," Zeke's father leaned forward slightly, his tone sharpening. "What exactly did you say to him while he was on the ground?" Gale's lips trembled. Nothing special, sir. I was just motivating him." "Motivating, huh?" Zeke's father smirked faintly, then gestured with his cigar toward Troy. "My friend here has a very good sense of judgment." His eyes narrowed. "You said something about his mother, didn't you?" The word struck Gale like a blade. His pupils widened, his throat tightening as if the room had suddenly lost all its air. He stammered, "Sir, I can explain. It was just, there's nothing to explain." Zeke's father cut him off, voice dropping to a dangerous calm. He leaned closer, his face hard as steel. Bad-mouthing my wife? Who the hell do you think you are? He turned his head slightly. Troy. Yes, sir, Troy replied, his tone firm and cold. Take care of him. Zeke's father stood, flicked the ashes of his cigar onto the floor, and walked out of the room without a glance back. Gail's voice cracked into a scream. Wait, please, please forgive me. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry, sir. His desperate begging echoed against the walls, but the door was already closing behind Zeke's father. The last thing Gail saw was Officer Troy stepping forward, the guards tightening their circle. The last thing anyone heard was Gail's begging turning into a choked silence. Gail was never seen again. The orange glow of the evening sun slipped through the lounge curtains, painting stripes across the old sofa where Leo and Zeke sat. The television hummed in the background, though neither of them was watching. Aunt Nora had gone to fetch groceries, leaving the boys alone. Leo leaned back, arms stretched across the sofa. His sharp eyes studied Zeke. Tell me something, he said. Back in that ring, I noticed something. You're a better grappler than striker. Where did you learn that? Zeke shrugged, looking almost embarrassed. From no one. I just used to watch wrestling on TV. I really loved it. Leo's eyebrows shot up. So you're a natural, huh? A pause followed. 2 full minutes of silence, broken only by the muffled sounds of the TV. Then Leo suddenly grinned, excitement bubbling up. Hey, let's wrestle! Zeke blinked. Wrestle? Here? Are you serious? Yeah, Leo shot back, leaning forward like a kid with a new toy. I want to see your abilities. Zeke shook his head, nervous laughter escaping. No way Aunt Nora would be really pissed off. Leo smirked. Well, she's not here, so... Before Zeke could protest further, Leo lunged, tackling him onto the sofa. Oi, stop, Zeke yelled, twisting under his weight. Stop me if you can, Leo laughed. Zeke growled, struggling beneath him. So you want to do this the hard way, huh? In seconds, both were fully engaged, grappling, countering, rolling across the lounge floor. Leo tried for a headlock, but Zeke slipped out, wrapping his arm around Leo's waist and sweeping him down. Leo twisted free and caught Zeke's wrist, only for Zeke to roll and reverse the position. Books toppled from the shelf, a picture frame clattered to the ground, and a vase shattered into pieces as they wrestled harder than either intended. Meanwhile, outside, Aunt Nora walked down the street humming softly, arms full of groceries. She reached the door, turned the knob, and stepped inside, only to freeze. Her jaw dropped. The lounge was chaotic, books scattered, the pictures lying face down on the floor, a broken vase in pieces, and in the middle of it all, Leo and Zeke tangled on the carpet, both frozen mid-grapple, staring up at her. Her face turned red with fury. What the fuck are you two doing? Both boys instantly released each other, sitting upright like guilty children. Later that night, the house was quiet again. Leo and Zeke lay in their beds. The moonlight slipped through the window, cutting silver shapes across the room. Leo broke the silence. Dude, you're an amazing grappler. I barely kept up with you. He turned his head toward Zeke, grinning. You should try grappling in the arena next time. Zeke's eyes widened slightly. The idea struck him deeper than he expected. For the first time, he smiled at the thought. Maybe you're right. From tomorrow, training would resume, but now with a different purpose. What they didn't know was that this new path would twist into something far beyond what either of them imagined. Chapter 15. The Unchained Got Chained. A new day began and their training took a new turn. Sparring and grappling were made compulsory. Both did well. They trained, and Troy watched them. Zeke's grappling was getting better every day. Days passed, and they built themselves with these passing days. In the meanwhile, Leo did some fights in the ring with some amateurs, and of course, he won them and kept his title as a champion. Zeke didn't fight much, but he also maintained his title as a champion and never lost a single fight. They both held impressive records, Leo at 30-0 and Zeke at 20-0. That arena was nothing short of hell, yet they embraced it. In that chaos they found joy, a reason to keep going. To them, that hell felt like heaven, or a heavenly hell. 2 months passed. One evening, Zeke was walking down the street when suddenly a voice from behind called his name. Zeke! Zeke turned around. It was Ryder, who had recognized him and was now running toward him, leaning forward as he panted. Zeke's face lit up. "Ryder, my boy, it's been a while." A few minutes later, they were sitting on a bench eating ice cream. Ryder gasped. "Really? You were in a fight club? Man, I don't believe you." Zeke sat with his legs spread out, grinning. "Ha, nobody believes it until I show them. You see these arms? They've broken more egos than bones. There's a reason they call me the grappler. The moment I step in that ring, even the crowd holds its breath. I don't fight, I dominate." Ryder blinked. "I still don't believe you." Zeke's smile faltered. "Hey, why don't you come with me tonight? I'll show you." Ryder thought for a moment. He's probably lying, Siadwin said. "Okay, fine." Zeke shot up from the bench, excitement flashing in his eyes. Perfect, 10 p.m. sharp. Meanwhile, Leo and Aunt Nora were in a shopping mall, shopping for Nora. Leo didn't like shopping, neither did Zeke. But somehow Zeke had gotten away from it and Leo got dragged into it. "Auntie," Leo said, walking behind her, "I think we've done enough. We should go." "Oh, Leo, my boy, we'll go after a few minutes," Nora replied. "You've been saying that for 2 hours," Leo muttered. "After all, I'll be gone after a few hours," she said softly. "Don't you want to spend time with me?" Leo grunted. "Yes, but..." He looked down, thinking, I wanted to be in the fight club. Nora pointed toward a restaurant inside the mall. "Hey, Leo, want to go there?" Leo looked up at the restaurant and sudden happiness and gratitude crossed his mind. Finally, some real stuff. Evening turned into night at fight club time. Zeke and Ryder reached the place. Ryder froze, shocked by the crowd and the thunderous energy inside. "See, I wasn't lying," Zeke smirked. "Yeah, then you're probably bullshitting about that champion thing," Ryder shot back. "Just wait," Zeke said with a grin, leading him to the front row. Ryder stood watching the ring when the commentator called out the fighters. "The Unchained." Then the voice boomed again. "Zeke the Grappler." Ryder's eyes widened. He wasn't lying. Zeke's opponent had a 17-9 record. Zeke laughed. "It's about to be 17-10. The bell rang. The opponent charged, but Zeke slipped past like a shadow, wrapped his arms around his waist, got behind him, and locked an arm around his neck. A clean, tight technique. The opponent struggled, then went limp. The crowd roared. Ryder just stood there, frozen in shock. Zeke let go, stood tall, and raised his arms. He glanced at the opponent being carried off by his friends. "If that's unchained," Zeke yelled, "I'd love to see him chained." Zeke spit on his opponent and shouted, "Take him away." One of the man's friends glared at Zeke but said nothing. Zeke wasn't usually like this. He was probably doing it to raise his worth in Ryder's eyes. He thought Ryder might spread his stories to everyone. Outside, the night air felt cool. Zeke and Ryder walked down the street. "Bro," Ryder said, shaking his head. "You're a beast. You didn't just win. You dismantled him. I blinked and it was over." Zeke smirked. "Told you, grappling isn't about strength, it's about control. Once I've got that, the fight's already over." Ryder grinned. "I'm never arguing with you again." Zeke chuckled. "Good, save yourself from embarrassment." As they walked, a voice called from behind. "Oi, Zeke!" Zeke sighed. "Leo, he's gonna kill me for coming here alone." He turned around, but it wasn't Leo. It was the same guys who had carried away Zeke's opponent from the ring. One of them stepped forward, his tone sharp. "We need to talk." Next chapter's dropping soon. Subscribe so you won't miss it.